You're committed to intermittent fasting. You follow the schedule, control your meals. But every time you step on the scale, nothing changes. That frustration is more common than you think, especially among women over 40. Here's an alarming statistic: over 60% of women who try intermittent fasting after 40 don't see the results they expected. But why? Spoiler, it's not just about food or calories. It's about emotions. Hidden emotional triggers are quietly sabotaging your progress, and you may not even realize it. In this video, we'll explore why you're fasting and still not losing weight, even though you're doing everything right. We'll uncover the invisible emotional patterns that are holding you back, and most importantly, we'll show you how to overcome them. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments what's your biggest challenge with intermittent fasting. And don't forget to like the video, share it with a friend who's going through the same struggle, and subscribe to the channel because here, you'll learn to care for your health with awareness, science, and empathy. Let's get straight to the point. The invisible frustration. Why your effort doesn't seem to work. You begin fasting with high hopes. If you do everything right, set your eating window, drink water, cut out processed foods, but the scale just won't budge. That frustration isn't just physical, it's emotional, deep, and silent. For many women over 40, this feeling of failure starts becoming a pattern. Doubt creeps in. Has my body just stopped working? But here's the truth. It's not your body that's failing, it's the way you're handling the process. As the years go by, your metabolism naturally slows down. Hormones shift. Your body's response to stress changes. And beyond that, there's another factor working quietly behind the scenes: the emotional weight you've been carrying throughout your life. Those emotions, old frustrations, unresolved traumas, silent fears directly impact your fasting results. They raise cortisol levels, disrupt satiety, interfere with your sleep, and trigger emotional eating impulses. And the worst part? You could be trapped in this cycle for years without even realizing it. This is the beginning of a journey towards self-awareness. To lose weight with intermittent fasting, especially after 40, you need to look beyond the food. You need to understand why your body is resisting. And it all starts with recognizing that this frustration isn't your fault. It's a signal that something deeper needs your attention. The impact of emotional triggers on weight loss after 40. At 40, a woman's body enters a new chapter, and with it come profound hormonal changes. But what most people don't talk about is that these changes don't just affect the body, they deeply impact the emotional landscape as well. Women at this stage carry decades of expectations, self-pressure, and multiple roles. All of this shapes a complex relationship with food and with their own bodies. It's not uncommon for intermittent fasting, instead of being an ally, to become yet another silent burden. What begins as a health strategy turns into an internal battlefield. That's when emotional triggers step in. An emotional trigger is any event, memory, or feeling that sparks an automatic, often unconscious reaction. It could be a painful comment about your body, a glance in the mirror, or the quiet guilt after breaking a fast. These triggers directly affect your biology. They increase cortisol levels, disrupt metabolism, and create a hormonal environment that's unfavorable for fat loss. And when you don't recognize these triggers, you can fall into destructive cycles. Fasting more strictly, criticizing yourself more harshly, feeling more frustrated, repeating old patterns, and still not losing weight. The truth is, to lose weight with intermittent fasting after 40, it's not enough to control what you eat. You need to understand what you feel and why. That's when fasting becomes a mindful practice, not just a mechanical restriction. Anxiety disguised as discipline. When fasting becomes the enemy, you believe you're being disciplined. You follow your fasting schedule, manage your food, avoid indulgences. But deep down, there's a constant restlessness, a fear of failure, and anxiety that builds with every skipped meal. This discipline may actually be masking something far more dangerous: anxiety in disguise. The anxiety around weight loss can often present itself as focus. You tell yourself things like, I need to do this perfectly. I can't break my fast. If I eat, I'll ruin everything. And fasting, which should be a tool for balance and self-care, becomes a constant source of tension. That tension activates your body's stress response system. Cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes. And when cortisol stays elevated for too long, it interferes with fat burning, disrupts sleep, alters appetite, and changes the way your body stores fat. In other words, the anxiety you feel from trying to get everything right could be sabotaging your results. On top of that, this emotional pressure can lead to an unhealthy relationship with food. Eating becomes a test of control, and food becomes the enemy. When you fail, guilt pushes you into cycles of binging, overfasting, and deeper frustration. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, stop and take a breath. The problem isn't your willpower, it's the way anxiety is shaping your choices. And recognizing that is the first step toward making fasting a true ally in your health, not a silent enemy. When food becomes identity, the emotional inheritance you don't even notice. Many women don't realize it, but the way they eat and the way they fast wasn't entirely their own choice. It was inherited. From the mother who used food as affection. From the grandmother who believed a beautiful body was always a thin one. From decades of hearing things like, if you eat too much, you'll get fat, or you need to control yourself. This cultural and family legacy shapes the way you see food and the way you see your body. Without noticing, you start carrying limiting beliefs that drive your daily decisions. Thoughts like, if I break my fast, I failed. I need to punish myself when I eat something wrong. Thinness equals worth and acceptance. These aren't just thoughts, they're emotional frameworks embedded deep inside you. They act as internal saboteurs. Even when you're following your fasting plan, these beliefs can lead you to hidden overindulgences. Emotional eating outside your eating window, or even giving up entirely after one small mistake. In these cases, fasting isn't really about health. It's about belonging, being accepted, living up to old expectations. Breaking this pattern requires awareness. It's not enough to change what's on your plate. Need to ask whose rules. Are you following? Do they make sense for the woman you are now, at 40 or 50? Freeing yourself from that emotional inheritance is one of the most powerful steps toward making fasting truly work for you. The guilt cycle, fasting, binging, and the weight of self-criticism. There's a silent emotional pattern that traps many women in intermittent fasting, the guilt cycle. It often starts with good intentions. You plan to stick to your eating window, avoid impulsive snacking, stay disciplined. But all it takes is one misstep, a snack at the wrong time, a richer meal, and guilt takes over. This guilt isn't light. It comes loaded with harsh self-judgment. I ruined everything. I have no discipline. I'll never get this right. These thoughts carry real weight. They don't just discourage, they feed into an even more destructive cycle, compulsive behavior. After guilt comes the urge to compensate. You fast for longer than necessary, restrict your food intake drastically, try to erase the mistake. But your body, now on high alert, responds with intense hunger, strong cravings, and mental exhaustion. You give in, the compulsion returns, and so does the guilt. This cycle is more common than people think. And it has nothing to do with weakness. It's the result of years of conditioning, rigid behavioral patterns, and a punishing view of your own body. And here's the key. This cycle won't be broken with more control. It will only break with more compassion. Fasting, when practiced with balance and mindfulness, doesn't need to be a form of punishment. It can be a moment of listening, of self-care, of reconnection with your body. But that only happens when you replace self-criticism with self-understanding. And that begins with one powerful question. Did you fail, or are you simply human? Cortisol and the trap of chronic stress. Many women do everything right with intermittent fasting. They eat well, follow their routine, stick to the schedule. But still, they don't lose weight. What few realize is that a silent enemy may be sabotaging their efforts: chronic stress, and with it, elevated cortisol levels. Cortisol is an essential hormone, naturally produced by the body in response to stress. It helps us react in moments of pressure or danger. But when stress becomes constant, whether due to financial worries, family issues, work demands, or even the pressure to lose weight, cortisol remains elevated for long periods. That's when the problems begin. High cortisol levels put the body in alert mode. It interprets the situation as a threat and, as a defense mechanism, starts storing fat, especially around the abdominal area. Cortisol also disrupts sleep, increases hunger, deregulates the hormones that control satiety, and triggers cravings for comfort foods. What's more concerning is that many women enter this state without even noticing. They're constantly busy, overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and try to maintain control through even stricter fasting. That only worsens the situation, creating a cycle of stress, frustration, and stalled results. Fasting under chronic stress is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The body doesn't respond well. It resists, protects itself, and shuts down natural fat loss processes. That's why learning to manage stress isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for any woman who wants to lose weight healthily and sustainably after 40. Rest, breaks, and self-care are not interruptions in your progress. They're part of it. And your body needs to hear that message. You are safe. You are taking care of yourself, and it's okay to relax. Reprogramming the mind, strategies to break the emotional cycle. After years of reacting automatically to emotions, beliefs, and invisible patterns, reprogramming your mind might seem impossible. But real change is absolutely possible, and it starts with awareness. The first step is to notice your triggers. Observe when you eat without hunger, when you break your fast impulsively, or when food becomes an emotional anesthetic. Simply noticing without judgment already interrupts the autopilot. The second step is to rewrite your inner dialogue. Instead of repeating things like, "I'll never get it right," or "I'm just an anxious person," try replacing them with more empowering statements. "I'm learning to take care of myself. I'm capable of changing my patterns. My body responds when I listen with respect." The way you speak to yourself shapes the way you behave. Another powerful tool is to incorporate small moments of presence into your daily life. A few deep breaths before eating, a short walk after lunch, a moment of quiet in the morning. These simple rituals activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for creating feelings of safety and calm. It's the exact opposite of the anxiety that sabotages your fasting. Reprogramming your mind isn't about erasing your past. It's about honoring your story, understanding your defense mechanisms, and gently teaching your body and mind that there are healthier ways to respond. When you approach fasting with this mindset, it stops being a battle. It becomes a practice of reconnection. You're not just changing what you eat, you're changing how you feel, how you think, and how you treat yourself. And that is the true key to losing weight with consistency, ease, and clarity. The path to light, mindful, and truly effective fasting. There comes a moment when you realize fasting doesn't have to be another source of pressure. It can, in fact, be a light, conscious, and deeply effective practice, but that only happens when it stops being an obligation and becomes a choice. This new path begins when you understand that weight loss isn't just about eating less. It's about making room to listen to your body, your story, your emotions. When you stop fighting against yourself and start working with your body, fasting transforms. It becomes a process of reconnection, not restriction. It's being effective. With fasting doesn't mean being rigid. It means being consistent with emotional intelligence. It means understanding your limits, respecting your cycles, and adjusting your strategies with flexibility. Health isn't about speed, it's about continuity. A mindful fast is one that honors your current phase of life, your hormonal needs, and your emotional background. Most importantly, It moves hand in hand with the joy of living without guilt. Without self-sabotage, without obsession, this path is possible. And it begins with a decision to care for yourself with compassion, science, and presence. Once you make that decision, fasting stops being a burden and becomes a tool for autonomy and freedom. If you've made it this far, you already understand the problem isn't you. It's not your body or your willpower. What often blocks weight loss through intermittent fasting are invisible emotional barriers, but they're very real. You've seen how frustration, emotional triggers, anxiety disguised as discipline. Family conditioning and chronic stress all create a negative environment for any strategy to succeed. We also explored how guilt and silent self-sabotage trap you in painful cycles and how your mind can be reprogrammed to break free from them. To begin this transformation, start by noticing your feelings before, during, and after your fasting windows. Writing them down in a simple journal can help reveal emotional patterns that usually go unnoticed. Instead of criticizing yourself, for every slip, try speaking to yourself with kindness, the way you would speak to a close friend trying to heal and grow. Make time for rest. Quality sleep and intentional pauses throughout the day have a real impact on your stress hormones, and therefore on your fasting results. Give yourself permission to adjust your routine without guilt. Not every day will be perfect, and that doesn't mean you failed. More than just a dietary approach, fasting can become an act of listening and reconnection. When practiced with awareness and balance, it's no longer a war against your body. It becomes a reunion with the woman you are becoming. If this content resonated with you, give this video a like, share it with other women on the same path, and subscribe to the channel. And now, tell me in the comments, what was your biggest takeaway from this video? Taking care of yourself is an act of courage, and you're on the right path.